Well, looking at this one, for me, India would have liked to have played anyone except Australia. They've had a terrible tour there over the past few months in Australia. I think they failed to win in any games, which was a disaster for them. But they're playing a different brand of cricket now. They're playing good cricket. They're getting runs up front. Rohit Sharma's knock the other day was really important for India because he'd only scored some runs twice in the competition, and that was against the associate teams. So for him to play like he did in the quarter-final was a big plus for India. Dhawan is hit or miss anyway. When he gets going, he can score very quickly. Kohli, we all know what side to Kohli's role in the team is. It's to be the anchor man. It's to bat through if he can. His strike rate's below 100, but he tends to, this World Cup, he's tend to have got to 30s and 40s. He's had a couple of not outs, but he's not gone on and got the real big one, which you expect from Kohli. The only player that's not scoring runs for them is Rehan. It's Rehan. I mean, Raina's scoring runs, Dhoni's scoring runs, and we all know how dangerous Dhoni can be. Jadeja down the order has not really had an opportunity. I think his highest score is 23 not out. But altogether, there's always someone, similar to New Zealand, where one of the players, every single game India have played, has stood up and got runs. And that's why they've been successful. And that's all it takes sometimes. It's very simple. One player gets 100, the team will often get 300 plus. And that's what's worked for India, and that's what's worked for New Zealand. On the bowling front, you've got to say India have been one of the best bowling attacks in the World Cup. You've got Yadav and Shami, who have been absolutely superb as a bowling partnership. Very different. You've seen Shami tends to be the strike bowler. Yadav is skiddy. Mohit has bowled quicker than I ever thought he could bowl. I've been really impressed with Mohit. And Ashwin, he gets a lot of criticism, Ashwin, but he's been steady for India. You take out the one game, he has been really good. And he's not been the best spinner in the tournament. I think Imran Tahir and Vittori have been better, and they're more likely to take wickets. But what Ashwin does, he just offers India a bit of stability in the middle of the innings. And I think he's a real good person in that attack for India. Well, what's happened with Australia is, but yet again, everybody's talking about how good they are. But I think what it's come down to for them is but one player stood up each game, hasn't they, and performed. There's no one really has gone and been outstanding through the World Cup for them. And just an idea for that, their top scorer in the World Cup is Maxwell. Maxwell's their leading run scorer in the World Cup, which probably will surprise a lot of people. But it just goes to show the way they do play. I mean, they have got Maxwell. They have got Fall, have a strike rate over 100. They're terrific players and the match winners in their own right. But what they also have got, Michael Clarke probably weakens their team if you want to talk about someone who's come in, he's not quite there. His captaincy skills are brilliant, and I think he deserves his place in the team for his captaincy skills. But at times he can weaken Australia and slow them up in certain areas. And they've tried to get him a knock from time to time, and it's not really worked. He looked out of sorts the other day against the pace of Pakistan. And it'll be interesting what game plan India have. It's going to be at the SCG. Now, we do know, but the ball can turn at times at the SCG. And this is probably the worst ground Australia would want to play India at. Out of all the grounds in Australia, when SCG came up as a semi-final and India was the draw, now you've got Australia thinking, well, we've got India and we beat them 10 times this summer, but the SCG is a lifeline for India because it can grip into the pitch, it can be turned at times, and the toss can become vital. So both teams will be a little bit nervous coming into this game, and I'm really excited by this one. Everybody's talking about South Africa, New Zealand as the semi-final to watch. But I think the India and Australia has got a lot more to offer. It might be a little bit of a lower scoring game, but a lot of tactics might come into play. And I think with two great captains, Dhoni and Clarke, it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top. Now, India have got an amazing record so far. In the last World Cup, Champions League and this one, I think they've gone now 16 games unbeaten. Now, that stands for a lot, confidence-wise, going into any game when it comes to major competition. And India have got that. They've got that desire. They've got that know-how of winning in major competitions. Now, Australia are a quality side. They've lost against New Zealand, which wasn't a massive setback. It didn't really matter, that game. When you look at it, I thought it was a tremendous comeback for them to even have a chance, thanks to Starc's brilliant bowling. But it's going to be interesting. That game, for me, excites me more than the New Zealand-South Africa. Yeah, same again. Australia's bowling, has it been that impressive? I would say no. Starc has been outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. He bowls brilliant with the new ball. He bowls aggressive. He looks to throw in the slow ball, and he can bowl over or around the wicket. So that's a huge factor for Australia. But Johnson, disappointing. We all know he's a wicket taker. He's took 10 wickets so far in this World Cup. He's bowled quickly at times, but not consistently. But what he has done is given width to the batsman. And in this day and age, you cannot give any player with the size of the bats and how good the bats are with the short boundaries, you cannot give batsmen width. No matter who you're playing against, no matter whether you're playing Zimbabwe, Ireland, Scotland, or India. Width, you go for runs. And Johnson, at times, had been expensive. I think he's gone for over 5 and over in this World Cup so far. And another worrying factor for Australia, let's just look at their bowling options down the order, where they've got Shane Watson. That's their 5th bowler, or Clark, who's bowled a little bit. There's their 5th bowler. That's a problem area. They've got no real spin option except Doherty. They don't trust him. He played 1 game in this World Cup. He went round the park. So they're not going to play him. And if the ball does turn at Sydney, where do Australia go from there? Yeah, there could well be. This is what we're saying. Sydney, you never know what you're going to get. All depends on the weather in the build-up. It depends on a lot of things, whether the pitch's been a huge pitch before. You'd like to think Australia, with it being a semi-final, it's going to be a fresh pitch. And if the sun's out, we all know what anybody's going to do. Whoever wins the toss is going to bat first. The sun is out in Sydney, you always bat first. Now, the problem is, if it becomes in overcast conditions, I've played there, and it does make a difference. It's one of the few grounds, there's certain grounds in the world, where when it's overcast, the pitch, the moisture rises and the ball seams around. Just 2 pitches in where I come from in England, we have Headingley, we have Edgbaston and Lords. Those 3, when it's overcast, makes a big difference to how the pitch plays. It can be the same pitch on a sunny day and it looks flat as anything. As soon as overcast conditions come out, it brings moisture up and the ball steams around. Now, I've played in 1 day and test matches in Sydney when that's happened, and it makes a huge difference. A huge difference. So if the sun is out, whoever wins the toss will bat. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it'll be interesting to see. And let's just hope we get a good spectacle and it doesn't become overcast later on in the day and the ball sings and seams around, because it would suit whoever's bowling second.